Now a new year means new videos, and so for my first proper video of 2013, we're going to continue the look at the Marklin items that I own. And now we've moved on to rolling stock, which starts getting very interesting. Now because we all love Thomas, I'll start with the pieces of Thomas rolling stock that I have, and those include Annie and Clarabelle, 3 tanker wagons, the 2 troublesome trucks, and an unofficial, specially modified version of SC Ruffy. So, let us begin. There are 3 different designs of boxes for these Thomas-themed carriages. The first one is the style that the trucks have. Now, what was interesting about the Thomas and Friends series was that the 2 troublesome trucks were the only trucks that were released individually. Annie and Clarabelle and the tanker wagons were released as part of a collection, meaning that each individual box, as we can see here, doesn't have an item number on it, or a little picture to describe what goes in which box. All that we get is the mould, and for some reason, with the tanker wagons, a little piece of plastic to protect them. So that means that we can see that we've got a picture of the truck on the side of these ones, and a Marklin box, very similar to the Hornby ones, as you'll soon see. However, we can see that it's got Thomas and seine Freunde, instead of Thomas and his friends. We can see we've got the licensing information on the back, and the Togo Lino and Super RTL logos, which I believe are the licensees and TV channels, that produce these and allow them to be shown in Germany. And so what we can actually see that this Hornby themed Thomas set is very, very similar to the Thomas Marklin one. And this is actually because, as I've explained, Hornby and Marklin actually went into a trade agreement, where Marklin was able to use Hornby's moulds, of course making the slight modifications, such as the coupling and the wheel designs. And this is part of the reason that the series was only released for 1 year, as it was simply too expensive to pay both licensing and Hornby for the moulds. As you can see, this is another different type of box design, where we've got writing on the side, rather than actually having a picture, and then instead we've got pictures of the other accessories that we can buy. So now onto the actual locomotives and coaches themselves. So let's start with our 2 passenger coaches. Annie and Clarabelle are very nicely designed wagons. I mean, if you've been on YouTube, you've probably seen them in not only videos, but also, remakes and all that kind of stuff. And they are very nice as coaches, but there's quite a few things that aren't accurate to the TV series with these. The first thing is that the roofs, in the TV series have never been this crisp white. They've always been a different kind of funny, off-white kind of grey sometimes, as we see on the Bachmann model. And that this white, although a lot more like the Railway series books, isn't actually what's reflected in the TV series, and because of the shortness and lack of bogies, that's clearly what Hornby was trying to model. The second thing that isn't prototypical about these is if we lift them off, we can see that they've actually been given running boards along the sides, like so. And once again, as we see in the specially designed Bachmann model, these running boards aren't actually present because they're not present in the TV series. However, I don't feel these really take away from the model themselves. Now, the reason for all of this, as we've seen, is because Marklin used Hornby's tooling, and Hornby, for almost all of their Thomas models, simply retooled and recolored old models. That explains why these Annie and Clarabelle aren't quite right, although it doesn't explain the white use of paint. There's one last thing that isn't quite right about Annie and Clarabelle, and it's their size. Now, we know that in the TV series, Annie and Clarabelle are just a tiny bit longer than Thomas. And in the Railway series books, they're a lot longer than Thomas. However, if we get the Thomas model, place him on the tracks like so, we can see that he is clearly longer than Annie and Clarabelle, and therefore doesn't really seem to fit the scale. And once again, this is due to the way Hornby and Marklin used the basis of Hornby's E2 design, which is a lot longer than the actual Thomas model used in the television series, rather than adapting the E2 into its own smaller compact form, which explains why Thomas always looks really stretched out in the Hornby version. So now we've had a look at Annie and Clarabelle. Overall, I still think they're really good carriages, and I think you can't have Thomas without Annie and Clarabelle, but it actually looks really good to have Percy, or in my case, my little bike tank engine over there pulling Annie and Clarabelle, because they've got that size right. So now let's have a look at the 3 tanker wagons. These, I think, are the best rolling stock produced by Hornby. They've got the scale just right. They're nice and small, just like in the TV series, and short, and if we can uncouple them, they've got all the proportions, along with the cabling, the printing, and all the little bits and pieces in here. And I think that these tanker wagons, they've done a really good job of the detailing on all 3. As you can see, although now both of these are a little bit outdated, they're very much a good set. And I really wonder what it would look like to have 10 or 15 of each of these wagons in a train. Now, if we move on to the troublesome trucks, we'll first look at the 2 official models by Marklin. The first 2 that we can see are the 2 ones which once again have been adapted by Hornby. They've got some typical troublesome truck faces, which I think are really good. I've always wondered why they have different sizes, especially when this face has so much white, but that's the same in the TV series, so it just left me wondering. Now, they've got the colour right on these, but once again the link seems a bit strange. Combined with the fact that once again we've got these running boards along the side, which are definitely not present in the TV series. What's strange that these 2 troublesome trucks are long, but then, if we have a look at the design of them compared to SC Ruffy, his design is short, which is actually how this model is made possible. If we have a look, we can actually see this is the bottom of one of the milk taker wagons, and it's actually been stripped off, and the top of Scruffy has been placed on it, allowing to have an unofficial Marklin version of this truck. And I mean, that's fine to have the different lengths, but if you have a look at a train like this, it kind of looks a bit strange having the short truck and the 2 long trucks when they're meant to be all the same. They also have this kind of look of being narrower too that way. And so I think that that's kind of when you start running into issues with the Hornby system of the Thomas Railway. And of course this is exemplified by such models as Henry and Emily, but let's not go there. So overall, the carriages in this collection are actually quite good. And for anyone who has the Thomas range and has Marklin, because I do know there are a few of you out there, I definitely think that picking these up is a welcome addition to your Thomas Marklin collection. However, I think that for Hornby to succeed, and if Marklin were ever to pick up Thomas in the future, they really need to put the effort in to redesign these coaches and trucks so that they look like they do in the TV series. Because frankly, that's what kids want. They want to be able to reenact the things that they see on TV. And although these trucks are good, they don't quite allow that to happen. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more Marklin, Thomas, and random bits and pieces reviews from TrainzXtreme.